Summer 2023 is wrapping up, and honestly, I've just kind of been blindsided as usual. It feels like every season now we get hit by a deluge of hype content and smooth-talking anime hype men to give us a sense of FOMO bordering on doom if we don't watch every single show. Looking at the wall of shows on MAL, it's easy to become paralyzed by choice. Want some demon-slaying action? We've got that. That show you saw years ago? Forgot about, but got a glow-up? We've got that. An actual dumpster fire? Yeah, unfortunately we've got that. And you could watch any of the shows I just outlined and have great new experiences, or you're going to default to the same handful of shows that you always rewatch. And if that's your MO, then alright fellow nostalgia revelers, here's my rewatch list. Originally, I was just gonna go down this list and list out the reasons why each of these shows are great, which I'll still do, but then the question occurred to me, why? Why do we like to rewatch stuff? Prior to me writing the script, it just seemed kind of obvious. Good show equals rewatch, right? Well, not necessarily, because some of the best shows I've ever seen, I don't really rewatch. I then got curious as to why this was, and I did the most thorough research possible by Googling stuff and not bothering to find peer-reviewed articles. Throughout my D-tier research though, I found that the exact mechanism varies from person to person, but it comes down mainly to nostalgia. Shocker, I know. In addition to that, rewatching stuff from a different point in your life can be a new experience in its own right. Shows don't exist in a vacuum. What's going on in our lives at the time can shape how we view the media that we consume. With this bit of knowledge though, let's take a look at some of the entries on my list here. Starting with Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. This one realistically needs no introduction, and it's probably the most obvious pick. Banger writing, banger animation, banger voice acting, and banger soundtrack. It's all there, and there is a lot to love. Now, there might be one pretty glaring flaw with the show. The comedy might not land for you. It seems to be a Bones thing, but interjecting some comedy moments into a relatively serious series seems to be their thing. It personally worked for me here in FMAB and Mob Psycho 100, although the latter is sort of a comedy, but it didn't really work at all in Bungo Stray Dogs, which I unceremoniously dropped after a few seasons. That aside though, nostalgia does play a small part here in FMAB's inclusion on my list, but honestly I think it could have easily secured the spot on its own merits. The reason why I don't rewatch this one more often is pretty simple. At about the halfway point, that's when the story really picks up momentum, and if the option to binge watch it is there, I will unfortunately do it, much to the detriment of work, appointments, chores, and my sleep schedule. So yeah, great show, just gotta carve out a block of time for it. I know, Lucky Star isn't necessarily a show that's all that exciting. But for me, this was a show that showed me that anime didn't always have to be about fighting someone. You could have no enemies and still enjoy the show. Hell, you could even not have a continuous plot whatsoever and still enjoy the show. Prior to this, my understanding of anime as a medium was sort of limited and filtered by what was available on the TV, which happened to be mostly tropey shonen shows and the big three. Slice of life just really wasn't even in my vocabulary. I distinctly remember heading over to a friend's house at lunchtime in 2011, and we watched the first episode together, only for me to be completely bored out of my mind. Despite that though, there was something magnetic about the show, because I went out on my own and watched the second episode, then the third, then the fourth, and so on. I just could not figure it out. It felt like that show you put on in the background, but not quite. But now, having about a decade to hone my media literacy, I think I kinda get it now. Life, particularly adult life, is crushing at times. You have responsibilities, people you have to answer to, unexpected happenings. You aren't really expected to relax. And when you do, it's in service of recharging yourself for the next thing you have to do. Also, when you do unwind, there seems to be this pressure to do so with shows, movies, or games with life or death stakes, which are fun to be clear. But on the flip side, I'd say what's appealing about Slice of Life to me is the lack of set stakes. Relax, let your guard down. No one's dying here. That said, it's not the Slice of Life moments in the show that keep me coming back. This is a KyoAni show after all, and they have to flex. Things will be normal one second and go off the rails the next. I'm talking about the crazy comic book store employees, Aya Hirano breaking the fourth wall, the absolute commitment to this initial D-bit, the unhinged Salt Gremlin known as Akira Kogami, the production crew heading out to the coast with Minoru Shiraishi for no reason other at all except to entertain us, and lastly, one of the most heartfelt moments I've ever experienced in anime. Now that I think about it though, this kinda reminds me of why I like Bocchi the Rock. Except, Konata's not like me, for real, for real. If there's one show that's earned its enduring legacy, it's Neon Genesis Evangelion. From an industry standpoint, it's hard to understate just how much of a lasting impact that Hideaki Anno has had on an entire generation of creatives. Just a quick glance at the list of shows it inspired in Wikipedia should be enough to understand that what the crew created here was bigger than anything they could have ever hoped it would be. With a deep and layered plot, world, and characters, the most frustrating thing about it to me is that it didn't go on for a bit longer. While I have no qualms with any of the endings, I feel like a few more episodes during its endgame phase could have really helped it stick its landing. It just felt like everything that was silently simmering in the background comes to a full boil too quickly, and we're given no time to let that fully sink in. I just really wanted more. Or maybe I'm off base here and the overwhelming nature was a feature and not a bug. As for why I keep coming back, there is something timeless about people who seemingly struggle to communicate or get closer to others, despite being so close physically or digitally. Whether that's due to a personality type, past traumas, or a combination of the two, the communication paradox seems to grow more and more confounding by the day. We live in an era where communication has never ever been easier, yet it seems the quality of that communication is more superficial than ever before, which, given rising global loneliness rates, is slightly concerning, but also contributes to Eva's ever-present relevance. As much as I love Evangelion though, it's definitely not something I can rewatch often. I need to be in a very particular headspace to enjoy it, because sometimes when you stare into the abyss for too long, you'll find that the abyss stares back. Hell, it was hard enough to do for that one Evangelion-inspired Ruby video I did. The themes and messages of Evangelion were and are something that continue to resonate to me. So much so that I don't really want to trivialize that by rewatching it too often. Anno very much put a piece of himself into this franchise, and it can be seen in this oft-memed clip.
自分が作ったアニメは好きですか？
まあ好きといえば好きですけど、結構嫌いなところもあります。
嫌いなところはどんなところですか？
自分が出てるところ。
And it's this very personal aspect that informs the slight reference I treat the show with. This isn't just a mecha show with the side of slice of life. This is a human being expressing himself in some of the most unconditional terms, for better or for worse. And there you have it. I was trying to pick out a show to rewatch on the treadmill, but then brain dumped this entire video script. Are there any shows that you like to rewatch? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching.